Congratulations on getting this far. We're now at the last exercise. But unlike much of what we've done throughout this lesson, this is less of an exercise and more of an introduction to something we'll be tackling after Lesson 1 in the 250 box challenge. If you find yourself struggling with this one, and you will, everyone does, keep in mind that this is expected. Don't do more than the quantity assigned on the lesson page for this exercise. You'll complete the work, submit your work for feedback from a third party, and when they give you the go-ahead to move forwards, you'll continue on to the 250 box challenge, and we'll continue to work on these concepts there. So, long story short, this one's hard, so don't be surprised when it is. And that applies to those of you who are looking at my saying this as a challenge. It's not. When I say that something is expected to be difficult, it's because it is, and you'll only ever do yourself a disservice by not heeding that warning and going in with unreasonable expectations. This exercise has us drawing a bunch of boxes rotated in entirely random and arbitrary orientations, arranged loosely along a path that swoops back and forth as it pushes farther away from the viewer. In this video, we're going to demonstrate the overview of how the exercise is done, but in a separate video after this, we'll talk about the approach we use to actually construct the boxes, which we call the Y method. We're separating that out into its own video because it will also be extremely relevant to the box challenge later. Like the plotted and rough perspective box exercises, we're going to start out by drawing 3 frames on our page with a ruler. I've demonstrated this in the videos for those other exercises, so we'll skip over it this time and use this page I've prepared. With our frames drawn, we want to draw a line that swoops back and forth. When drawing this, think of it as though it's coming towards the viewer from far away, or receding from the viewer. Either will look fine. This will serve as the general path along which we'll be drawing boxes. A lot of boxes. For each box, and again, this is something we're going to elaborate on in its own video, we start by constructing a Y, each arm of which is an edge extending towards one of the box's 3 vanishing points, though we don't need to worry just yet about where the specific vanishing point falls, or how long these arms are drawn. Just focus on keeping the arms of the Y separated by angles greater than 90 degrees, and think of the central point of the Y as being one corner of our box. From here, the focus becomes on adding more edges to build out the box, while always trying to keep the convergences between all of the lines of a given set consistent. So for example, if we look here, I've drawn 2 lines which converge to this vanishing point. If I want to add more lines to that set, meaning lines that also converge to the same point, I can do so by studying the 2 lines that are already there and trying to match their behavior. Even if that vanishing point is far, far away, we can still derive enough information to add more edges to the set by studying the lines already present on the page. This is key to what we're doing in this course, because a lot of the time the vanishing points are going to be way outside of the space in which you're drawing, way off the sheet, maybe way outside of your workspace. By focusing on what we have on the page, where we're drawing, we can avoid a lot of the inconvenience and additional mental resources required to keep referring to vanishing points way outside of that space. Since I'm covering this in a separate video, I'm not going to go into further detail here about how the boxes are constructed. I will note, however, that for the purposes of this exercise, specifically when being done as part of your Lesson 1 homework, you don't have to worry about drawing through the boxes as though we have X-ray vision. You can leave it at the edges that would be visible from the viewer's vantage point. When doing this exercise in our warm-ups afterwards, however, and when drawing these kinds of boxes as part of the box challenge, we will be drawing through them. Basically, by not doing so here, it gives us a chance to make a bit of a comparison and hopefully better appreciate the value of drawing through our boxes and how it helps us better understand the way in which they exist in 3D space. With the first box drawn, keep adding more and keep them loosely clustered around our path. Those farther away should be smaller, those closer should be larger, and those really close should be exaggeratedly large to the point of getting cut off by the frame. You don't need to worry about maintaining cube proportions. but you'll probably find the exercise a little less difficult if you avoid stretching them out. Additionally, in terms of foreshortening, keeping them fairly shallow, meaning only giving them a little bit of convergence, not too much, but more than nothing, will help avoid inconsistency in the sense of scale. We really want the boxes to feel as though they're roughly the same general size in 3D space, despite the effects of perspective. Technically, if we were being completely accurate, those boxes closest to the viewer would be hit with the most dramatic foreshortening, and those farther away would be the shallowest. But you don't need to worry about that right now. You may want to play with this later when practicing this exercise in your warm-ups, but do not worry about it within the scope of your Lesson 1 homework. And that pretty much covers it. Draw a bunch of boxes, try not to make them wonky, but accept it when that is ultimately how they come out.